What's up, guys? Welcome back to Toy Lips. Today we are taking a look at the Hasbro Marvel Legends series, Andy Garfield Spider-Man, as well as Thomas Hayden Church's The Sandman. That's Andy and Sandy. They come packaged on these nice cards. Back looks like this. Tiny, incredibly inconsequential read-up.
Flint Marco is a derpa.
As ever, we're going to check these suckers out top to bottom, and I'll tell you how I really feel. So load up your web shooters and leave a like on this video. Here we go. So this is Andy Garfield as Peter Parker in Sony's The Amazing Spider-Man 2. Right away, the overall look, the proportions, that head sculpt, they are nailing it. The colors are way too dark, but let's get a little closer. Tightening up on that head sculpt a little bit. Really clean paint hits. The eyes are spot on, those eyebrows. Little bit of stubble even. Look at that. Look at that. Looks like just one color in the hair. It's catching the light some. Pretty nice. Minimal gappage. You can see that little separation at the neck for whatever reason. It's just how they're constructing the sucker. That spider logo is nice and clean. So are all of the raised, sculpted, painted web lines. Those are really well done. The costume overall looks great. They all do these slightly different takes on the arms. I think this is kind of a weird thin one that looks pinched up there. It should cover half the arm and like hit over the elbow. That's my personal feeling. Reference the comic books. That's essentially what the rest of the costume has done. I really like the little belt band piece here. The spider logo on the back also looks great. It is slightly raised. They've sculpted web shooters onto the wrists here, but that's always a tricky thing because depending on the orientation here, it's not going to look right. You'd have to twist it like this, and then your bicep looks like that, and that's a little weird, right? You need an independent wrist swivel so that you can make that work, or just don't sculpt those in there. It's not really a big deal. I mean, it looks all muddy anyway. You can scarcely see what the hell that really is supposed to be. You just gather as a fan, you're like, oh, that must be a web shooter. Sure it is, fellas. But otherwise, some killer detail on the hand even. These are still raised and sculpted. All this really nice basketball-style texture work all over the thing, too. And of course, no visible pins. It is essentially, of course, a reissue of the 3-pack one, just with the new head. And puzzlingly to me, the same overly dark color scheme, which is fine. Legends did a run of all the characters in dark colors, and then lately they've been coming around with lighter colors, pick your poison. And you know what's funny? I've been rewatching these movies lately to get my head right, And of course, just like all the promotional images and from the very start of the movie, it is bright red and blue because that's just how it is. But as it goes, maybe an hour into the movie, the pseudo montages of him doing his thing, running himself ragged. At one point, it does get more dirty and more dingy until it is very dark like this. But then cut to the next scene and it's fresh and clean again in a bright red and blue. You could say that in the 3-pack setting, they didn't want them all to be the same reds and blues. But I thought for sure when they re-released it like this, they would update that. I know this is a really niggling thing, but you just know they're going to re-release it in different colors. That's just what they do. Don't look, Brian from Super 7. Anyway, I think aesthetically this is an incredibly pleasing addition. Peg holes on the bottoms of the feet. For articulation, our friend here is ready to do whatever a spider can, including, tilt his head down and back just a little, but not that far, and it's just on the little barbell joint, so it always kind of snaps back into place. You get more tilt that way, though, but you don't get to lock it in a... It's fine. It's a fine head. Shoulders, of course, are pegged into this extra piece so that they will butterfly to the back and to the forward, a little bit like that. They'll kick up past a 90 even. They'll rotate all the way around on that. You get this nice bicep cut. You get the double-jointed pinless elbow that works famously. You get the wrists coming back and you get them coming forward. They'll rotate on there. They're just pegged in. At the torso, he's got that optimal configuration with a diaphragm cut that rocks all about. And this little crunch down here. If you bring that back too far, you can see the edge of that. But not major. You can bring that forward quite a bit and all the way down, folding that sucker in half. Of late, I'm a big fan of the Traxxas 30-weight shock oil. You just dab a little in the joints on these and work it in. Heat and water, those things will free up stuck joints, but just for the general stiffness of certain figures, it's not going to solve that long term. That little bit of oil dabbed in there, you can see the sheen, kind of, where some of it is still working its way through the system. These are pegged in, they'll come out to the side, to the front, to the back, and it's a drop-down system you can see there, which affords you a little more range. This sucker will twist around, it'll bend in half right here. Proportionally, that looks pretty good as well. Straighten that back out, you can see this foot will bend back like this and forward like this, and it's got ankle rocker going side to side. This is a really, really incredibly articulated figure. And as far as the MCU versus the comic book stuff, these ones really are on par with anything. These new Spider-Men, you know. As we all know, part and parcel of being a spider is some level of freakish contortionism. Checking out Sandy, this is Thomas Hayden Church as the Sandman from 2007's Spider-Man 3, the Sam Raimi joint. Tobey Maguire, James Franco. Why was Topher Grace cast as Eddie Brock? Anyway, he didn't return for No Way Home. But this Sandy sucker did. Let's get a little closer. This figure is covered in all this nice texture. He's completely unique in that way. Getting closer to this head, even through all that sandiness, you see this really great actor's likeness, I think. I mean, I feel like it's pretty much nailing that guy. Overall, there's not a lot else going on visually. It's just, in general, the whole thing is textured. It's got extra colors of paint over it. It's, you know, it's sand. It's meant to be sandy. He's got the the pinless tech here. The feet have this little bit of extra sand, like it's just, you know, it's joining with the ground there, whatever. Otherwise, you kind of marvel at the texture of the thing and trip on that facial likeness, and there's not a whole lot to get into otherwise visually. Proportions, I think, look pretty good. The length of the arms, the legs, the size of the head, depending on who you ask. It's too big, it's too small. I think he looks fine. But how does he move? Well, with his head up on this little barbell joint, so you get a lot of great tilt and attitude, but it's not going to be able to stick back very well. Looks down a little bit of a gap there. Regular shoulders that are pegged in here, they will come up to a 90. They'll rotate all the way around, twist there. Double joints. Hinged wrists. One piece of articulation at the waist, though. It works pretty well, but you gotta watch out for this, man. Of late, they have been stripping it down to this. And this was what we hated about the female figures for a long time. They only had the 1 point. And we just got that new body mold with the second piece, and they're casually stripping it back on other figures. This is what happened in the Marvel Universe line. They kept up in the price, but they started to cut the articulation. It's like with food items, the price goes up, and they slowly decrease the portion size. I understand we're still buying this stuff, but there's got to be a point, right, where you've stripped everything away, and it doesn't matter if you've kept the price relatively low. If you're just giving us garbage, it's not worth anything. Anyway, be thinking about how to add articulation, guys, not take it away. Not take it away. I would say not the most dynamic character, but sure he is. He's made of frickin' sand. Oh. Legs will come out to the side, the kick to the front, a little bit to the back. They twist on this cut. They bend in half here. Ankle comes back and forward, rocks side to side. Right out of the package, all these joints work great too. I have not oiled this sucker. He moves really well. Everything feels nice. Nothing was stiff or stuck. A lot of good things to say about this thing. For accessories, Mr. Garfield comes with the mask and an extra set of hands. Let's be real, the biggest additional piece we all were looking for was the unmasked head. And that looks so freaking good. I know we traded a couple of hands for it over the last release or general Spider-Man releases, which often come with 2 fists, 2 open hands, 2 web shooting hands. What am I doing with my fingers there? So standalone, it sucks that it's missing those. In contrast to the earlier release, it's as though you traded 2 hands for the unmasked head. And that masked head looks every bit as fantastic as the previous release. Absolutely killer raised sculpt work there. All the paint lines are hit pretty cleanly. And then, of course, the other hands fit right on there famously. 1 fist, 1 open grasper, wall crawl, what have you. Oh, you know what? The other release also came with a webbing. For accessories, Thomas Hayden features hands, big and small. Comes with those fists, comes with a pair of open hands, and some of them that looks totally new, but some of these look like textured sandy variations on hands that we've seen before. That's kind of fun, right? Also, you know what else is fun? The slight power effect hand, the larger hands that you see on other Sandman figure releases. Still that same nice level of texture, extra paintwork over that thing. And then you get these transitional pieces here. They all swap really, really easily too. And they are coded in here. This says this has an off or right. So you flip that the right way, stick that right over the forearm, stays on there pretty nicely, and you stick this extra long peg all the way through. And then he's got these big arms. This is a nice effect, I think. I would, of course, like some of the other weapons. It would be extra cool if all the Sandman parts were interchangeable. Comic figures, I know. But it's a similar setup here. Maybe something at the waist. But for how they're doing licensed figures, movie tie-ins, cash grabs, no build-a-figure, minimal accessories, I think this is pretty alright. I like these hands. I like this figure. Both Andy and Sandy stand about 6 1/4 inches to the top of their respective hairs.
Say, Doc, you wouldn't happen to be moving your hair, would you?
That is just under 160 centimeters. To compare and contrast with some other friends, here is the 10-year-old at this point Amazing Spider-Man 2 Spider-Man, and on the right, the relatively recent 3-pack Tobey Maguire Spider-Man, Michael Keaton's Vulture from Homecoming, and Jake Gyllenhaal's Mysterio. Okay, Spider-Man 2. Bruce Campbell outside the movie theater. He puts emphasis on the word illusion. Tells Peter we don't want to break the illusion. Who's paying you to say this? The Ghost Spider and Venom. Here we go, next to their classic comic counterparts. And here they are next to the SV Action Sentinel Peter B. And on the right, that is the Medicom Mafex Classic version. Alright, and here in a 7-inch scale, we have the NECA Ninja Turtles Secret of the Ooze Raphael, and the Invincible animated series Alan the Alien. Review up on the channel now. And finally, it's the Jada Street Fighter Fei Long, and the Marvel Legends Morning Coffee, mostly Bucky Cap Deadpool. Alright, end of the day, how do I really feel here? Look, these are pretty... We've been waiting for this, right? These Spider-Man figures with the frickin' head sculpts. And they look so good. They look so good. I've been slowly getting this whole wave. I pre-ordered a couple of different places, just trying to get these, you know, seen some in the wild, canceled some pre-orders. Anyway, I'm just saying, I'm getting close to having all the ones I want here, and I'm pretty happy with all of them as it goes. Something to think about if you're on the fence, if you have the 3-pack ones, which are fine figures. It's like if you were just to buy an aftermarket head sculpt. I hate to be that guy, but it's like, with the cost of a good one and shipping and all that, you might be looking around the same price range. You know what I'm saying? These ones that they've done, these are really freaking nice. This wasn't always the case. I'm thinking back years ago to Duck Lips Daredevil. And never mind, the whole rest of the figure, the Spider-Man figure, looks fantastic. Never mind that I want some brighter colors here. The Sandman, too. All that texture. This is super unique. Where else are they going to reuse this stuff? Good on them for kind of biting that bullet. It sucks that they've shortchanged us a couple of hands here, but at least the Sandman gets a couple of powered hands, some kind of torso piece. Cool stuff like that would also be great. Again, because, of course, there's no Build-A-Figure piece, and it's that same price, but it's just how they do it. You decide if you want to get in on that or not. My recommendation, if you're a fan of this stuff, these are really solid purchases as far as the Hasbro stuff goes. These are really nice figures. I'd say you could try and wait for a clearance if you've already got the 3-pack ones. But it's a tough call. Spider-Man sells. I personally think these figures are so well done, they are worth it at regular retail. And I also think that I'm worth it. So go ahead and check out one of these other videos on the channel. Because before you waste your money on a figure, know that I probably already have. And I put that stuff up here because you're worth it, dear viewer. You're worth it.
We love you, Andy Garfield.
Thanks.